Population is a group of individuals of the same species living in a specific area. So the population of human beings in America or pure population of Kiwis in Australia, that's how you define population. Human population refers to all people inhabiting planet Earth, or you can talk about specific regions. Population study examines the pattern of growth, density of population, distribution of population, and demographics. It's influenced by how many people are born, how many people die, and how many people come into a place or go out of a geographic area. Human population impacts the resources in that area, the environment, and public health. Understanding of population helps us in developing sustainable strategies and planning. If we look at the trend of human growth, then we see that before the invent of agriculture, the growth was fairly slow. That is because of high mortality rate and limited food resources. With the advancement in agriculture, the growth started to increase because more food was available. Then with industrial revolution, we saw that there was again an increase in population growth because of advancement in medicine, sanitation, and also availability of food. By 20th century, we saw a rapid increase in growth in the entire world with the advancements of medicine and with more resources available. In current scenario, the growth rate is slowing down a little bit in more developed nations, but in developing nations, as more medicine and medical facility is becoming available and food resources are becoming available, the population growth rate remains high. The factors that influence growth rate are birth rate, which is the number of people born, death rate. If you have low death rate, that is usually because of better healthcare and sanitation, and that increases population. Immigration increases the population of an area when people start coming in, and emigration reduces the population when people start going out of an area. Resources like availability of food, clean water, shelter, sanitation increases the population of an area. Healthcare also increases the chances of survival of an organism, and again that also increases the population of an area. Developments like the factors affecting fertility and lifestyle and the family setup, or how a family wants to maintain their living standard, that also influences how the population is growing in an area. And then comes the governance that from time to time implements some plans, for example, trying to control the population or providing some incentives for either increasing or decreasing the number of children a family can have. Or sometimes the government in certain countries, we have seen examples where they impose restrictions on families for having more than certain number of children. So here at the demographic transition model, we can simultaneously analyze the birth rate, death rate, and total growth rate of a population. In the pre-industrial area, the birth rate and growth rate were almost pretty close. That's why there was a very slow increase in population. As the growth rate or the birth rate remained high, but the death rate declined because of availability of medicine and sanitation and food resources, the population growth started to increase. It kind of remained high as compared to the death rate, but eventually these numbers became low. So death rate became low because of good medication available and good food resources available, but birth rate also started declining because the family planning or urbanization led people to take a decision of not having huge families, and that kind of declined the birth rate. Nowadays people are even choosing to not have any children at all. So the population rate has kind of slowed down, And in the fifth stage, we see that there might be a decline in population, which has started declining right now, but it might end up declining even further because people might choose not to have children at all, or there will be a significant decline in the fertility rates. When we study demographics, two concepts are important: age structure, which tells you the distribution of number of people in different age groups. The first age group is pre-reproductive, before the age of 14, then reproductive between the age of 15 to 44, and post-reproductive. Population pyramid is the graphical representation of age and sex distribution of a population. For example, what you're seeing here is an expansive population pyramid in which there are more people in younger age group and less in the older group. So this population is expanding, whereas the stationary population has kind of similar number of individual in all the three age groups. So this kind of population has stabilized, for example, in a developed country. But in a constrictive pyramid, we see that the lower group is smaller and the upper age group has more number of individuals. So this is the example of an aging population. This information is useful for predicting future population trends, how to allocate resources, and what are going to be the impacts of this kind of trend on the economic situation of a country. Carrying capacity is the maximum number of human beings or individuals that an area or overall Earth can sustain. So if there are limited resources, and with the changes in lifestyle and technology, there will be a significant impact on how many human beings can live on this planet. Gradually, food and water resources are depleting, more energy is being consumed, more waste is being produced, and the land is being used up, and biodiversity is also declining. With the use of technology, we should be able to increase the carrying capacity of a planet, of an area, a little bit, but still it is going to lead to the over depletion of resources. It's important that we start using sustainable resources and we take measures at controlling the population. There are several activities of human beings that impact our environment. For example, deforestation, in which we clear agriculture areas and forests for establishing urban cities. Pollution is created by the use of vehicles and setting up of industry, in which we end up polluting air, water, and soil quality. Environment change or the climate change happens because of the emission of greenhouse gases through the use of fossil fuel, and we are also continuously losing biodiversity by destroying the habitats of other living organisms and by over exploiting the resources and putting the life of several important species in danger. We are continuously depleting resources, using water, fossil fuel, and minerals for our survival, and we are expanding cities, and for setting up cities you again need so many resources and clearing of agriculture areas and forests. Waste accumulation is another problem that the world is facing right now, where we have so much waste that we do not have enough space to clear it out. This map shows us how many places on the globe are now urban. With urbanization, we means that the cities are being set up and people are moving from rural areas to city life in the hope of finding jobs, education, and better infrastructure. The cities are growing and they are becoming mega cities, and there is expensive increase in the population densities in these cities. These high density areas have so much pressure of housing, transportation, sanitation, and resources, and they end up creating pollution, traffic congestion, and healthcare concerns. Urbanization is a good idea for as long as we can create a balance between the resources we have and the utilization of those resources. So population growth rate is overall the number of people born and that come into a country minus the number of people who have been removed because of death or because of moving out of a country. It is expressed as a percentage change every year. A high rate of population growth can put real strain on the resources and ecosystem. So, sustainable population growth is what can create a balance between the needs of a human being and the total capacity of an environment. It ensures that for a longer period of time, resources like food, water, energy, and habitat are available to all the organisms living in an area. For that, we should implement family planning strategies and educate people. We should also try to conserve the resources, improve healthcare, and use sustainable economic development. The goal is to meet the present day needs without compromising what we leave for the future generation. So, what are the current population trends of human beings? Today, the human population is exceeding 8 billion, and the growth rate is kind of slowing down now. The highest population growth is observed in the regions of sub-Saharan Africa and the parts of Southern Asia. Low or negative growth is seen in countries like Europe, Japan, and East Asia. The urbanization is increasing, and most of the people now are living in cities. So, about 55% of human beings live in cities or mega cities now. The fertility rate varies from region to region. It's more in the developing countries and is kind of lower in developed countries. And the migration pattern are also deciding which countries are seeing a surge in population. These trends end up impacting resources, economic development, and sustainability of resources in an area. Now that we are talking about the impact of human beings on the environment, we should learn about the concept of ecology. So, ecology is the study of interaction of organisms with their environment, both living as well as non-living factors, which are called biotic and abiotic factors of an environment. Ecology studies how organisms affect and are being affected by climate, soil, water, and other organisms around them. It helps us understand how ecosystem structure works, how energy flows, and how the nutrients are recycled in an ecosystem. It's important to address environmental issues such as conservation of resources and sustainability strategies. Ecologists study at different levels, the organism level or population level, community level, ecosystem or biosphere levels. Ecosystem provides so many resources and services to human beings. It provides us food, fresh water, wood, fuel, medicines, and it also regulates our climate, purifies air and water, and helps in controlling diseases. Other services provided by our environment are soil formation, pollination, and recycling of nutrients. Culturally, it provides us an opportunity for recreation, spiritual values, and aesthetic enjoyment. Human survival, health, and economy is very closely related to the health of their ecosystem. Overuse, degradation of ecosystem ultimately threatens the resources that are available to us and the biodiversity around us. Climate change refers to the long-term shift in the global temperature and weather patterns. This global change in temperature is mainly driven by the increase in greenhouse gases in our environment, mainly due to the activity of human beings. And these gases are carbon dioxide, methane, and nitrous oxide. These gases are produced from burning of fuels, deforestation, and industrial emission. Climate change leads to global warming, melting of glacier, increase in the sea levels, extreme weather conditions causing flooding, drought, and heat waves, and habitat loss and species extinction. It ends up impacting agriculture, health, water supply, and biodiversity. So it is required that we take urgent actions to decrease the amount of greenhouse gas production, and we should use some strategies that can control this climate change. Biodiversity refers to the variety of different living organisms in an ecosystem that contributes to the different species and genes of an area. Now, biodiversity loss is the decline of number and variety of species. The main causes are destruction of the habitat, pollution, climate change, overexploitation such as hunting, fishing, lodging, and invasion of species which are not native to that area. The consequences are that we end up disrupting the ecosystem balance, our food chain, we reduce the availability of environment services such as reduction of pollution, cleaning of air, cleaning of water by the ecosystem itself, and this also leads to potential loss of medicinal resources and genetic diversity. So conservation efforts are very important at this point of time. Sustainable development means meeting the needs of present generation without compromising what we leave for future generation. It's all about maintaining a balance between the economic growth, environmental protection, and social well-being. Thus, we should aim at reducing poverty, improving health and education, and ensuring resources to all the communities living on this planet. We should promote the use of renewable energy resources, recycling of material, and using eco-friendly technologies. We should encourage sustainable agricultural practices, reduced use of pesticides and insecticides, and use of natural biological means of fertilizers, and using clean water access and promoting the safe climate change. So, all these efforts are guided by United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, and the key is to ensure that we leave a healthy planet for use by the future generations. Conserving resources is protecting the natural habitats, species, and ecosystems from degradation. Restoring means rebuilding what has already damaged so that we can restore the associated biodiversity and their function. Protected areas like national park, wildlife reserves, and marine sanctuaries help in conserving these important species and their habitat. Endangered species programs are aiming at breeding and reintroducing the species which are endangered. Reforestation and afforestation aim at planting more plants so that we can create forests again which have been previously destroyed. Wetland and coral reef restoration aim at reviving the corals, and community-based conservation involves local people involvement in protecting the resources around them. Global efforts are made by different international organizations to protect the environment and biodiversity. So what can we do as individuals? We should reduce, reuse, and recycle. That means we should minimize the amount of waste we generate, and we should try to reuse the material that can be reused. We should try to save energy. We should turn off lights. We should turn off appliances which are not in use, and we should also not waste water. We should use sustainable transport, like we should walk, use bike, carpool, or use public transport. Use of eco-friendly products which can be easily degraded is a good choice to make. We should also make efforts to avoid products that are from endangered species so that people do not end up killing those endangered species for only making money. Reducing the consumption of meat can also reduce carbon footprint and conserve biodiversity in our ecosystem. We should educate and advocate more and more people and spread awareness regarding these environmental policies. We should try to volunteer in making efforts for conserving the resources, and should also donate so that on a community level we can make some efforts for conserving these resources. So today we learned about what are the factors that affect population growth, especially the human population, and what are the impacts of rapid increase in the population, and how we can use different kinds of demographic transition models to study populations of an area. Overpopulation can lead to significant impact on the environment, and we also studied that our environment provides us so many resources and so many services. How it is a really bad thing to damage our environment, to not care for it, and actually what should we do to conserve our environment and to prevent harm to other resources, living or non living resources around us.